the municipal city of Boise as a corporation. Now, here in our area, it's very important to know who has the ability to protect ourselves here. Okay, when I say to protect ourselves, I mean the community. It goes back to that duty of the community. Okay, does our sheriff, Mr. Nelson, and does the clerk, Mr. Hatch, have the ability to protect the community in constitutional protection to prevent the encroachment of Obamacare, to prevent the encroachment of federal taxation, to prevent the areas of government that interfere with your own personal belief of religious rights, health rights, things of this nature. All these areas, okay? These two people here are the gateway of constitutional protection. Most of you don't realize this. Now, currently the Sheriff's Department, as well as the county clerk, are all working under what is referred to as corporate capacity. They're no longer working in the municipal side of the state, because if they did, then they could not violate constitutional protection, because then they are registered with the Secretary of State here in the state of Idaho. Now, what is the responsibility of the sheriff? Okay, the sheriff, under Idaho Code 312227, okay, his primary responsibility states, irrespective of the police powers vested by the statute in state, county, municipal officers, it is hereby declared to be the policy of the state of Idaho that the primary duty of enforcing all the penal provisions of any and all statutes of this state in any court is vested in the sheriff and the prosecuting attorney of each of the several counties. Now the key is, look at how the state of Idaho is spelled. It's small state with only a big I. So he is the true constitutional protection within the state and as well as within the county. Okay? Now at the same time, notice that he has the ability to work under this state. And when I say this state, you're looking at it right in this area here. Okay?
There.
Okay? This state, remember what we said earlier, is the municipal part. So he gets to work in the constitutional side too, as well as the corporate side. Now in any court, that works the same way, because in any court there's a constitutional court as well as a corporation court. And currently we're in the corporation court. Now, what is the duties of the clerk? Now the clerk actually has a better role and a more avid role than most of the politicians in the county. In my belief, and from looking at it from a judicial or justice system point of view, the clerk actually is the true person who has the ability to open the door to both sides of the courtroom, let it be constitutional or let it be corporate democracy. And it's in our codes and statutes, and I'll show this as we progress. So he's the one who maintains the business activities of the courthouse, which is very important. And also, he's the one who maintains the record keeping for the county. Okay? Now at the same time, these are some of the hats of the county clerk. He oversees fines, court fees, restitution payments. All these things that he's overseeing currently are on the corporate side of the ka-ching of the county making money. Okay? Because you got to remember, how many people go to court actually have an injured party? Very few. It's like 1 out of 10. Okay? And that's even a high percentage. Most people who go to court, there's not an injury to anything. It's just they're in court because somebody feels that they're not doing what they want them to do. Okay? Which violates that constitutional right. So, the county clerk oversees all this stuff, even does the ballots, even coordinates the elections, does all these things. Now, it's very important for the county clerk to utilize his authority. What's currently happened, the majority of county clerks take their orders, again, listen to what I'm saying, take their orders from the judges when it comes to judicial matter. Very few clerks ever stand up to the judge and say, no, Your Honor, I'm not going to do it because I don't have to. I can open up the constitutional side of the courtroom if I choose to, which allows you as the judge to work on that constitutional side as well. Now, most judges have that ability to do so. But at the same time, they can't do it because you're brought forth within a all-cap name, and we'll get to that here in a sec. The other part that the recorder has to deal with is all the things dealing with your deeds, okay? Think of what I'm saying. All these illegal foreclosures that are going on, if that clerk of the court decided to go ahead and look at the paperwork, okay, and decline to record it because it's not a true, actual document, instead of it's a copy of something, it might not even be a real copy. He has that ability to do so, but most of them do not do that. They go ahead and they just take the paperwork in. Some will go ahead and read it, and some will deny it. But very few do, and so a lot of these fraudulent cases that are going on in the system fall back on what's happening within the clerk's domain. Now, Clerk Dale Hatch and Sheriff Lauren Nelson combined can actually take the constitutional state, constitutional county back into that area and be a true municipality which protects that person's constitutional rights under rule of law and not color of law. Okay? Now, all of us might want to know, when we talked about this last week a little bit, who has the authority to go ahead and go after the sheriff? Well, it's the coroner. The coroner has the ability to go after the sheriff and arrest him if he's a party to a case or if he's done something wrong. Okay? I mean, he has to step in. So if the sheriff's is a party to a suit, he can't go ahead and do his duty. The coroner has to step in. Okay? And that's the only thing that's important to understand that. But again, the sheriff and the clerk have that ability to protect us from Agenda 21, for instance. Okay? Agenda 21 is the UN One World Order governing corporatism elite who want to take all your rights, privileges, and immunities away from you and combine you to be a full corporate person, an entity, not a God-given man or woman. They want to treat you as a corporation, and by doing so, they're coming into the United States as well as other countries to go ahead and take away your ability to be yourself or to own property or to gather anything that deals with constitutional principles. Okay? Agenda 21, land cannot be treated as an ordinary asset controlled by individuals and subject to the pressures of the inefficiency of the market. Private land ownership is also a principal instrument of accumulation and concentration of wealth. Therefore, this contributes to social injustice. In other words, anytime somebody owns land, even if they've worked for it, these individuals of the UN, and this took place at the UN's Habitat No. 1 conference in 1976, believe that you are creating a social injustice because you own property. And so they want to eliminate that because they don't think it's right. Again, it's entitlement based. So here's another thing that took place back in the time of the UN, and this was taking place in the 90s, and this is what was said. In the case of the U.S., our local authorities are engaged in planning processes consistent with Local Agenda 21, but there is little interest in using the Local Agenda 21 brand. Participating in a UN advocate planning process would very likely bring out many conspiracy fixated groups and individuals in our society, such as the National Rifle Association, citizen militias, and some members of Congress. This segment of our society who fear the one world government and the UN invasion of the United States, through which our individual freedom would be stripped away, would actively work to defeat any elected official who joined the conspiracy by undertaking Local Agenda 21. So we call our process something else, such as comprehensive planning, growth management, or smart growth. Here currently, the slide that just popped in shows you the names of the cities and counties that are participating currently. So we have Asequa, we have Ada County, Boise, Bonneville County, Caldwell, Clearwater County, Heyburn, Idaho Falls, Jerome County, Lewiston, Meridian, Minidoka County, Nampa, Paul, Pocatello, and Rupert. Now I want you to understand, when you look at Local Agenda 21, you have to understand that it might not come across as something that looks bad. It actually might be something that's good. But because we sign up for it and we participate, it doesn't mean that we can't adopt them and not sign up, because we can do that as well. But because we sign up to these things, it allows an international jurisdiction to occur. And an international jurisdiction allows the UN to step in. So that is very important to understand, okay? And so those are the areas that we're looking at. And again, it could be building codes, it could be modular home construction, it could be fire, it could be any of these things. And again, like I'm saying, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing to utilize those codes, but to actually sign and register yourself as being part of it, then that's where the jurisdiction really is imposed, because it allows that to move forward. Now, another thing that took place, and that's happening now, is what is referred to as the White House Rural Council. And the White House Rural Council is simply this, and I'll go ahead and I'll let you read this. It allows 25 federal agencies in corporation status, in other words, in full corporate capacity, to come into your county and do as they please, okay? And I mean that, literally do as they please. And so one thing that we have to understand is, if the federal government is coming in, what is the definition of federal? Most people don't realize that the federal definition is this: pertaining to a league or treaty derived from an agreement or covenant between parties, especially between nations, constituted by a compact between parties, usually government or their representatives. This was Webster's second edition, 1913. Okay, that's what a league means, as far as federal means, is a league. So now we have to go to, what does a league mean? Okay, league means, in criminal law, is a conspiracy to do an unlawful act. So think about it. Our country, the federal government, is doing an unlawful act. Okay, goes back to what I referred to earlier, color of law. Color of law is an unlawful act, okay? Now, conspiracy. What does conspiracy mean? The agreement or engagement of persons to cooperate in accomplishing something unlawful for some unlawful purpose, or to do any act with the intent to prevent the course of justice. Okay, so we have a conspiracy currently, not just with the White House Rural Council coming into the state of Idaho through the feds. We have conspiracy continuing throughout all these areas of government, okay? Because again, remember, compacts tie in the constitutional state and the counties into the federal jurisdiction, which overrides constitutional protection, okay? In other words, again, they're preventing the course of justice, okay? So, the Secretary of Agriculture shall serve as the chair of the council, which shall also include the heads of the following executive branches, departments, agencies, and offices. So you have the Department of Treasury as one, the Department of Defense. Now when I'm saying this, when you see these names appear and they disappear, okay, what this means is that department has the ability, because of the executive order, the White House Rural Council, which was signed by Obama, to be able to come into our rural communities through each of those agencies and control what is actually ours, the individual or that person's business. You know, maybe you're a mom and pop person and you sell tractors. You know, that allows the federal government to come in and seize all your stuff.